Hey everybody, this is Fully and welcome to another Minecraft tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to build this automatic villager wheat and beetroot micro farm. If you don't want to see how it works and what it does and how it does it, I'll put a link in the description that'll jump straight to the main tutorial. But it's quite interesting, so I'd stick around and have a look. Now the farm itself works because we use the trick of filling a farmer villager's inventory with seeds prior to putting him into the farm. So once the crop grows, he harvests it because that's what he does, but he can't pick up any of the wheat. He just picks up the seeds, or some of the seeds anyway. He'll drop a few, which is why we need the filter. But it just means he'll continually keep replanting. He'll keep harvesting, then replanting, which is brilliant. Now, there are four main circuits in this system. I'll start at the top. The first one, the main one, is the on-off switch. So, and I've turned the volume right down, the block volume, because once it starts ticking, it's really annoying. But anyway, that's the on-off switch. So if you don't want the farm to work at all, obviously you turn the farm off, which is down. The light comes on. If any of these lights are on, it means your farm isn't going to work. So you put you switch the farm on, and what that does is it unpowers that line there, which unpowers the sticky piston, which pulls back the observer block, which is there, causing the farm to work. There you go, stuck out, and that line is powered. The next circuit is the one that detects whether or not you're out of bone meal. So for that we need to go down here a little bit. There's your bone meal dispenser. If we simulate being out of bone meal by taking the bone meal out, you'll notice that that comparator goes out because it can no longer pull a signal out of there. And what that does, if we can get round here, that powers that torch, which powers that line, which does two things. Firstly, it lights up that block. Sorry, it lights up the redstone lamp, that one there. Okay. And secondly, it powers this sticky piston again, which, as with the on-off switch, forces the observer block out, causing the farm to turn off. So as soon as you run out of bone meal, the farm stops working. So let's stick the bone meal back in again. You'll note that the light goes off and it's ready to rock and roll. The next circuit is the one that detects whether or not your chest is full. Once your chest gets full, this dropper starts to back up. Once that backs up and is full, this hopper starts to back up. Once that hopper is backed up and full, this hopper starts to back up. And as soon as this hopper has about 25 to 30 items in it, I'll show you. Let me just simulate that by popping that out, filling that up with some wheat. Now the signal strength being pulled out by the comparator is long enough to come all the way down to the end, which does two things. Firstly, it turns off that redstone torch, which powers that redstone torch, which powers this line, which, yeah, you guessed it, starts the sticky piston, which forces the observer block out of the way, turning off the farm. What it also does is it powers these two repeaters. And these two repeaters are connected to these redstone lamps at the front. So as soon as those two repeaters are powered, then the two redstone lamps at the front are powered. Again, if there's a light on at the front, it means your farm's not working. And now you can see exactly what the problem is. You know that the problem is your chest is full. So all you do then is you empty your chest, basically. Now, if you do let it back up, if you do let your chest get full, and you do let your dropper get full, then this hopper here will fill all the way up, and it'll never empty again. Because of the way the filter works, once that filter gets down to 5 or 6 items, I don't know exactly, it depends how many random items you put in there, but once it gets down to 5 or 6, it powers that redstone torch, which is how the filter works. But basically what that does then is stops that from emptying. It won't break your farm. It won't stop your farm. And if you're desperate for wheat, you could always come around here and take it all out. As soon as that starts getting wheat in it again, it'll just go through like normal. So it won't break your farm. But just be aware that if you let your chest get full and you let your dropper get full, that will fill up and stay full. It won't break your farm, so don't worry about it. So that is the circuit that turns on the lamps when your chest is full. The last little circuit is a basic clock for firing items out of your dropper up into your chest. So as soon as that dropper starts getting items in it, let's grab some of these. The comparator starts pulling a signal, and because of how the clock works, it gets powered again, and it turns it into a clock. It powers itself, which turns itself off, which powers itself to. That's how the clock works, and it also fires that block there, which causes the dropper to fire your stuff up into your chest. Now, as I say, that's silent, but it makes no odds really, because by far the loudest thing is going to be that dispenser there. Once this is running, that is quite loud. Let me just turn it up for a second, just to give you an idea. Now, you only got to get sort of this many blocks away and it'll stop working. However, if you put this in an area where you're going to be stood close, then there's a very good chance you'll get really annoyed with it. But anyway, initially when you turn the farm on, there's I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know why it happens, but it takes the farmer between 20 and 30 seconds to start farming. But once he's started, he'll just carry on. As long as bone meal is being dispensed out of the dispenser and the farm isn't turned off or the chest isn't full, as long as it's running, he'll carry on farming. And he'll drop the crops and whatever seeds he can't fit in his inventory on the ground. And obviously your crops are going to make their way through into the chest. Your seeds are just going to sit there until they despawn. And it won't take them long. It's 5 minutes, I think, for an item to despawn. So it won't take too long. Now, as I say, this uses lots of bone meal. Now, as a rough guide, and this is by no means exact, as a rough guide, it takes about 3 pieces of bone meal, between 2 and 3 pieces of bone meal to grow the crop to full height. And it takes 1 bone to get 3 pieces of bone meal. So basically, he'll drop a crop for every 3 pieces of bone meal. So roughly translated, that's a crop for every bone that you've got. So if you convert 4 stacks of bones into bone meal and lob it in the machine, you're likely to get 4 stacks of wheat back out of it again. It's not, as I say, it's not exact, and it's the same with beetroot as well. It's not exact, but it's a rough guide. So if I were to put convert a stack of bones into 3 stacks of bone meal, lob it in, I should, in theory, get 3 stacks of wheat out of the system. Now, you've noticed it stopped. It stopped because we've got no bone meal in the system. Fabulous. So I'll stick a stack of bone meal in, I'll whip all this out, and I'll just do a quick test. Just to see how many wheat I get out of 1 stack of bone meal, and it should be about 1/3 of a full stack. So what's that? About 20 pieces of wheat. So we'll give it a quick look. Brilliant. So it's run out of bone meal. We've got 28 stacks of wheat, which is a little bit more than I thought it would be, but it's still about par for the course. Okay, so I'll put a list of everything you need on screen now to build this thing. So pause the video if you need to. And let's crack on and build it. Okay, to build this thing, you're going to need an area that is 5 wide by 9 deep, and you're also going to need to dig down 3 blocks. So bear that in mind when you're finding somewhere to build it. Now you want to get to the front of your farm, pick a front. We'll use this as the front. you need to go to the bottom and you need to count in 3 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, you need to put down a block just there. This is going to be the block where your dropper goes on. So stick your dropper on top of it. Now you need to put down 6 blocks just there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to be where your clock goes. So grab yourself a comparator. You need to put a comparator there, a solid block there, a repeater coming out of the block there. Leave it on 1 tick. Then dust round back into the comparator. That causes a clock that keeps flashing. Then you want to put a bit of dust there, and then a repeater down the bottom there. So now every time something goes into your dropper, it gets spat out. So you've got that. Next, you want to grab yourself your hoppers, go behind the back of your dropper. You need to crouch. You need to put a hopper leading into that dropper. So make sure your nozzle's pointing into the dropper. If it's not, this won't work. And then you want to get a chest, standard chest, and you need to crouch and put it directly on top of your dropper. Okay, so you've got your hopper into your dropper and then your chest on top of your dropper like that. Then stand on this hopper, grab yourself some solid blocks and put 2 blocks there and there. Okay, and then on the top of this block you need to put yourself down a comparator. Now you're going to have to crouch and you need to put a hopper leading into that comparator. So grab your hopper, crouch, aim at the very end of it till you see the hitbox, and then place it down, and that way it's now going into the comparator. If you had that running straight down into that hopper, the comparator wouldn't pull a signal out of it and the filter wouldn't work. So that needs, and if you had it obviously pointing straight into the chest, the stuff would come down and go into the chest, which is something else we don't need. Okay, so have it pointing at your comparator at the front. Now we need to set up the filter. So grab yourself the redstone torch and you need to put a redstone torch on that block just there, which is going to lock that hopper. Then you want to come around here, put yourself down a repeater on 1 tick leading into that block there. Then grab your blocks again. You want to put 2 blocks there like that, 1 block there and 1 block there. So you've got like a V. Okay, so redstone torch, repeater, and then some blocks like that. Now grab yourself some dust. You need to put dust on those 3 blocks there, and then a redstone torch on that block there. Okay. Now to prime the filter, you need to put an item in here that's never going to be going through your system. Let's use redstone dust. Actually, you can use what you like, cobble, anything. I mean, literally anything. As long as it's not a seed or wheat, you'll be fine. So we'll use redstone dust. You need to fill those 3 slots there with 1 piece of dust, and then you need to put 15 in there. Some people say you can use 18. You can use 18. It can go up to 18. However, if there's a bit of lag on your server or it glitches very slightly, there's a good chance that your filter item will fall out of this hopper. And if your filter item falls out, then seeds can start going through. So I always make sure that the items in that slot are a little bit less, just to give me a little bit of wriggle room, really. Then you need to grab the items that you want to be filtered. In our case, it's going to be wheat. If this was a beetroot farm, you'd put beetroot in here. So lob those in here and it'll start going down. And obviously it'll start going through into your dropper and then back up into your chests. Now this should go down to about 3 items. Down to 4 items. Okay, you don't want it to be any less than that. As I say, if you put that up to 18, it will go down to 1, but all you need is a little bit of a glitch that falls through and then seeds can come through. So as I say, leave it at 15. You're going to be safe then. So now we've got that. Now grab yourself some dirt, and you need to put some dirt directly on top of your hopper. Then grab your solid blocks again, and you need to put a solid block there, a solid block there, and then a solid block next to the side of your comparator. So you're going to have to crouch and put it on the side of the comparator. Okay, so you've got that. And then you want to do the same on the other side. Okay, solid block there, crouch, block on the side of your comparator. Okay, and on top of these two blocks, that one and that one, you need to put down some redstone dust. And then grab your redstone lamp and put your lamps on the side of the dirt. One there, one there. Okay, now grab some redstone dust. You need to put some dust on that block and on that block. And then grab your repeaters, put a repeater there and a repeater there. They're on standard 1 tick. So now you should have something that looks like that. Right, now we need to put some water in here. So as long as we've got water within 4 blocks of this dirt, it's going to keep it hydrated. It doesn't have to be linked. You don't need blocks in between the water and the dirt. As long as it's on the same y-axis and within 4 blocks of the dirt, it's going to hydrate it. So we're going to stick our water here. So grab yourself a block that you want. You have to use a solid block because we're going to need to put a redstone signal through it. So you can't use glass, but you can use any solid block you want. I'm using lapis, so I know that there's water inside it. And then you want to look directly down at that bit of dust, and you need to put a bit of lapis or a solid block just there. And then put a temporary block on top of it, and then you want to surround that block with other blocks. And then you can pop out the block in the middle. And that is where your water's going to sit. Okay, so now you've got something that looks like that. Now we're going to put in our dispenser. So grab yourself some solid blocks again, and you need to put 2 blocks there and there, and then come around the front, and you want to put a dispenser on that block just there. So it's directly behind the dirt. Okay? And then you need to put another solid block just there. And between both of them, you need to put yourself down a comparator. Now grab yourself your redstone torches. You need to put a torch coming off the side of that block there. And then you need to put a torch on that block there. It should go out because of that torch underneath it. And then you want to come around to the back of the farm, and you need to put an observer block on that block there. You need the redstone part at the back. You need the smiley face detector part sitting forward to the front. Okay, if you get that the wrong way round, if you put that way round, it's not going to work. Okay, so get to the back of the farm, put your observer block on top of that block there, detector part this side, and then it's going to work. Now take out your hoppers, and you need to put a hopper, you need to crouch, and you'll need to put a hopper leading into that dispenser, a hopper leading into that hopper, a hopper leading into that hopper, and then pop round the front, a hopper leading into that hopper. Okay, so that chains into that, chains into that, chains into that, goes into the dispenser. Okay, now on top of this hopper, you need to put down a chest. I'm going to use a trap chest because then I can take stuff out if I accidentally put it in the chest. You can use a normal chest if you want to, but as I say, I prefer to use a trapped one. Okay, so stick your chest on top like that. Now we need to do a bit of work at the front. But before we do, you want to grab yourself a torch because that's going to be flashing quite a lot, and you don't want the flashing redstone to cause lag. So grab yourself some torches and stick a couple of torches down there to minimize the lag. Okay, and then you can fill all of this in. you'll probably want to, you'll need to crouch, put one off the back of the hopper there, sorry, off the back of the dropper there, because you are going to be able to see through and you don't want to be looking down at flashing redstone. So stick yourself a solid block underneath the chest and that'll stop you being able to see past the chest to the redstone. And then just fill the rest of that in like that. Oh! Right, I've just noticed I've made a little error, just a tiny little error. What these two redstone lamps need to be one place further forward. They need to be there. Okay, so apologies for that. Just pop them out and move them one place further forward and then replace them with a solid block. Okay, so I told you to put them next to the dirt. Just move them one block further forward. Okay, apologies for that. Then grab yourself an upside down stair and put it there, and that way you can still access your chests. Now on top of the redstone lamps, you need to put 3 solid blocks. Okay, so 3 solid blocks on the left hand side. On the right hand side, you want to put 4. Okay? Now grab yourself some glass blocks. You can use any glass block you want, but it is going to have to be a glass block and not a pane, because if you use a pane, some of the seeds and wheat are going to land on the block on the slab at the on the set of stairs at the front and just sit there. So it does need to be a solid block. Any color will do. I'm using green because it's very garish. And then on top of the glass blocks, you need to put down 2 redstone lamps. Okay? So now you should have something that looks like that. Now grab yourself a lever, and you want to put a lever on the block just to the right of the bottom redstone lamp. So just there. So when you flick the lever, it turns the redstone lamp on and off. And then you want to go around the back, and you want to put 2 solid blocks underneath the block that you've just put the lever on. Okay, so you've got the lever there, and then you want to put 2 blocks just there. Okay, and on top of those 2 blocks, you need to put down some redstone dust. There and there. Now grab yourself your solid blocks again, and we just need to fill in the area around where the villager is going to be standing. So get yourself down here, you need to put a block in there, back round this side, a couple of blocks in there like that, crouch, put a block on top of the dispenser, and then here to cover the hole at the top, I'm going to use some glowstone. You don't need to use glowstone, but it's probably safer to do it because you don't want mobs spawning in there. You don't want the poor fellow in there to be left in the dark. So I'm going to cover it with a bit of glowstone. Okay. Now grab yourself a sticky piston, and you need to put a sticky piston on that block there where your redstone is, facing this way. Then grab yourself a solid block and put a solid block above that torch. And then you need to grab an observer, and you need to come around and face that block that you've just put down, and you need to put an observer block like that. Okay, now the detector part has to be facing backwards and the redstone part has to be facing forwards. If it isn't, if you put it down this way round, then it's not going to work. Okay, so put yourself down a block above that redstone torch, and then put yourself down the observer block against that block there, and that way you get it in the right place. Then you need to grab your solid blocks again, and you need to put 3 blocks there, and then 1 block above your sticky piston. And then you need to put 1 final block above the top of the glowstone, and then another block on top of that dust there. That's going to stop that dust linking up to the redstone dust we're about to put up here. Okay, then grab yourself some dust, and you want to put some dust on there, on those 3, and on that one there. Now that's currently lit up because there is no bone meal in your dispenser. if we would have put bone meal in the dispenser, this would go out, but we'll do that in a minute. So now you should have something that looks like that. And now to finish off with, you just need to grab yourself a solid block again. We need to put in the circuit that's going to stop the system from working if the chest is full. So come around to the very back, you need to put a solid block above that torch, and then you need a block off the side of it, a block off the side of that this way, and then you need to put a block down one. Okay, so you've got a block on top of the torch, one next to it, one next to that, and then drop down a block like that. And you want to stick dust on top of all of those blocks. And now you've got that. Now before we try and get a farmer in there, we need to test the system. So first of all, we need to stick in some bone meal to turn this lamp off here. So grab yourself some bone meal, throw it in the system. Brilliant, it should start working. So we'll just turn it off for the time being. As I mentioned before, if any of these lights are on, the system should be off. Okay, so there's bone meal in the system, therefore that light is off. And when we turn the farm on, that light goes off, so it's working now. So finally, we just need to check to see if the overflow works. And to do that, just get yourself down the bottom. Break out that hopper there just for the time being, and then throw a few items in that chest there, in that hopper there. Okay. And then if we come back round the front and try and turn the farm on, it doesn't work. Brilliant. And that's because the comparator there is sending a signal down to that block, which turns off that torch, which turns on that torch, which fires that line, which forces that sticky piston to push the observer block out of the way. So it doesn't matter whether you turn it on or off. If those lights are on, your chest is full, you need to empty your chest. So let's just go back down there and replace the hopper. Eventually that's going to run through. Once that chest has filled up a little bit, these lights are going to go out, and then your farm will be ready to go again. So now we need to get ourselves a farmer in there. Now I'm not going to show you how to get a farmer in there. Just push one in or drop one in. I'm going to spawn one in because I can. But before we put him in the farm, it's very important that we fill his inventory up with seeds. Okay, now if it's a beetroot farm, obviously you're going to have to fill him up with beetroot seeds. If it's a wheat farm, you're going to have to fill him up with wheat seeds. But either way, you need to stick him in a little holding area. I always make it at the front of the farm here, so it's easy to get him in, and he can't run away, and he can't get in there and start planting before you've filled his inventory up. So get yourself a farmer in here, like that. It doesn't have to be a farmer. This one is, but it doesn't have to be a farmer. Fletchers, shepherds will be fine. As long as he's a brown coat, he'll be okay. And then you want to throw 8 stacks of seeds at him. Now, because this is going to be a wheat farm, I'm going to throw 8 stacks of wheat seeds at him. Now, he must have 8 stacks in his inventory. You can't throw him in there with only a couple of stacks in there. Otherwise, he'll start picking wheat up, and then he'll stop working after a little while. It'll be useless. You'll have wasted your time. So make sure he has 8 stacks of wheat seeds. If you're not sure, or you forget how many you've thrown him, just throw him some more, because eventually he'll stop picking them up. So I've now thrown him 9 stacks of wheat seeds. As you can see, he can't pick the final stack up, which is brilliant. Now we need to just break the blocks behind him and coerce him into the farm. Like that. Now we need to till the land underneath him. So grab yourself a hoe. till the land. He should now start, well, it'll take between 20 and 30 seconds initially, but in a second he will start planting. Like that. Now, we tested the farm works, so I'll just stick a little bit more bone meal in there. As I say, it uses loads and loads and loads. However, it is worth it, but as I say, it does use a lot of bone meal. So we'll just throw a fair bit in to start with, and then I'll turn the farm on. Now he's just going to stand there planting and harvesting and planting and harvesting until you either run out of bone meal, or your chest is full, or you turn the farm off. And if either one of those happens, obviously the indicator lights are going to come on. He's going to stop farming, sort out whatever the problem is, either empty your chest or fill it with bone meal or flick the switch back on again. Give him 20 or 30 seconds and he'll carry on. And all of your wheat is going to finish up down here in the chest below. So all you've got to do now is to tidy it up a little bit. So grab yourself some blocks. Stick yourself down an upside down stair over the chest so you can access your chest still. So there you have it, a villager micro farm that's fully automatic with a filter that gets rid of your wheat and beetroot seeds. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, everybody. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like, and if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future videos. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.